part 2 and part 3 of the secret form, and we're here tonight to ask this board to set a public hearing for the May meeting.
Right, okay. And that's really all we need to do,
That's all you can do.
and provided they come forth with a negative declaration, then we're free to act at the next meeting.
That's correct.
Okay.
When public hearing set.
We just, I mean, I can. But this is, well,
It's gonna be for,
it is a use variance.
right,
Okay.
yeah,
So it's under local law 4 rather than under. Okay.
oh, that's right, the telecommunication.
Right, so that-
Okay.
okay, so.
Yeah,
So I move that we set a public hearing for VCW. Lanesburg ES SBL 76.00-1-12.311 at 822 Chadwick Road. Public hearing for a use variance under local law number 4 of the Lanesburg Telecommunications Facilities Law. For 7 p.m. on May 20th or soon thereafter, because they can be heard.
one second, guys.
Vice Chairman Lund.
Aye.
Board Chairman Gage.
All right,
Board Member Boggs.
all right,
Board Member Leone.
Good.
We'll see
You're
you
all
later.
set.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, good luck. Okay, the next item, Robert Brockway, I don't see him here. Is there somebody representing him?
I'm here.
No. All right, why don't we,
Business and
Yeah.
come back to them later.
yeah. So the next item would be, Kenneth Peak. All right, if you want to give us an idea of what you're looking for us to do for you.
I'm clearing property to try to build a house and purchase a camper so we can stay like the days that we're working on the property. It's not like to live in or anything, but Chris told me that we're not allowed to do that now, so I had to do that. Try to get the variance to be able to stay there overnight. On weekends or days that I have off to
Okay,
work on the property, get it prepped for building a house.
gotcha. And I did talk to Chris about this. I think. We looked at the ordinance.
New camper one that they were looking at.
Well, yeah, but I think there's still, okay, I'm looking at temporary storage of, let's see, trailers and recreational vehicles. And then it said the temporary parking of an occupied travel trailer or any residential, on any residential lot is permitted for a period of not longer than 90 days in 12 consecutive months. So you would be using that while you're doing the construction?
Clearing the property, pulling stumps, getting it prepped. To be able to start doing like a septic system, well. Have power brought in.
Okay. How long do you anticipate the project?
Well. I'm hoping within the next 2 years, I'd be able to get it all set for a house. But because I'm doing it on like days off from my work, I'm not hiring anybody because I can't afford to hire a company to do it. So,
I guess the key question becomes. Are you gonna? Is it gonna total more than 90 days over the next year? I mean, how many days off from work do you have?
well, I get 2 days off a week, but I'm not up there every day that I'm off.
Right.
So I would say less than 90 a year.
Okay.
If it's
I
less
mean,
than
that could be
90, then under this ordinance, he doesn't need a variance if we grant him an extra.
Yes. And when I talked to Chris, let alone the request for a use variance is not even appropriate for this. I think we could probably allow him to proceed, maybe a variance regarding the permitted amount of time that you could have it might be appropriate if later on you feel you need to have that part of it. Have you're not even up to the point where you've gotten or applied for a building permit yet?
No, I'm far from that. Right?
Okay,
I got trees cut down, I gotta take stumps out now, I got the driveway put in. So I'm doing it little by little, I mean, because I'm doing it by myself, so it's taking longer than I'd like it to take, I guess you could say. But Chris said also to let you know, when we do get ready to have the house built, we have to sell our house that we're living in. And he said that would be, we would be living in it until the house got, because we're having a modular built. So
okay.
it'll be truck there, so however many.
I think at this point, I mean, maybe that's when we might start looking at the 90 days, and maybe within that 90 days, you could manage to, have the house, constructed to the point where you could actually move from the RV to the house itself.
Okay.
And again, the use variance is not applicable to, in my opinion, this, because that's how the application initially was written up. So,
Cause I don't wanna get in trouble for staying on the weekend, but working on it, cause I know. Chris was saying other people have been staying in campers.
well, right, but you have a specific task you're trying to accomplish. Again, there is a concern about people having that being their only
It means that
domicile, and again, to facilitate, again, the construction of an actual house. It does make sense in that regard. And it's an RV that basically everything is self-contained,
Yeah.
like all the waste and everything else could be.
Yeah, it has holding tanks.
Right.
And when it gets full, I have a Manseder pump, I hooked to a camper, I pump it in a 55-gallon drum, plastic drum, take it home. Pump it into our septic at our house, we have septic. But I also got a hold of 2 septic companies local. And if I put it in a bigger container, they've said that they can come and
Take it,
that way I don't have to worry about spillage or anything.
okay,
So, and then I also talked to one about, Chris said, a porta potty, if it came down to it. They'll run a porta potty, but I mean, if the camper has a,
if it's got everything provided, yeah, that might be,
I mean, I put a picture with it too, because it's not old dilapidated, it's a 39.5 foot. Fifth wheel, 4 slide outs with a winter, a 4-season package insulation. So it's good to like 20 below 0, so. We want to stay up in the weekends in the winter time, and our old camper didn't have sufficient insulation. So,
gotcha.
I mean, it's got a regular heater in it, I mean, to me, it's like a small house. So,
So just as a timeline, then you're still property in the area, like you say, you just got a road put in. When do you anticipate the actual? You say it's a modular home that you're gonna have?
yeah, I guess it's out of Pennsylvania, that's where they're building them. Showcase Homes is where we dealt with. And they said when it gets closer, when we get closer to getting the property all set for it, then they'll have their contractor come and look at it and see if we have to do anything else to prepare it for the trucks and the cranes to come in.
Okay.
Is that on a block foundation or,
It's gonna be on a regular foundation.
and are you putting that in or are they?
We're the Showcase Homes. So they like to be able to do it themselves. That way they know who's doing it and that way it's fits the modular exactly in that, so.
Right.
I'm not gonna be doing it myself, yeah,
So is it gonna be a slab or a
a basement,
basement? Okay.
a poured foundation.
So again, when would you anticipate that aspect?
I'm hoping on 2 years, within 2 years,
Okay.
unless I hit the lottery, then it'd be a lot quicker.
All right. So in the meantime, you would be staying primarily on the weekends to do what you can in preparation when you get to that point when you can have the modular place.
Yes. Or my days off or whatever, but I mean, I can write down days that I've stayed there to keep track. If you say it's 90 days that we're allowed to stay there total.
Probably a wise precaution.
Okay,
Just
Okay.
that way, if there's a question, if somebody does challenge,
because I
we'll
know
have a log.
something's
And
been
and if you
brought up.
start getting close, then you can come back and ask for a variance for us to extend the 90 days to.
Yeah,
So the 90 days would be total for a 12-month period.
well, yeah.
That's
um,
the way we're.
It's the card law.
Yes, right, and and again, it would probably become more of an issue, I guess, when you have the modular place and then you'd be there the more
Right.
to try to hasten that completion, so. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to just keep a log
Okay.
and, you know, just keep in touch with Chris regarding this.
Okay.
Obviously, at one point, you're gonna need to reach out to him to get a building permit,
Yes.
so.
Well, I work with his uncle, so it's kind of. If I need to get a hold of Chris, you know, if I can't get a hold of him here, he'll call him. and
Yeah,
Chris usually
okay,
calls me back, so the communication's really easy for it.
okay. Yeah, and when I did talk to him, he seemed to think that was a reasonable thing to do. I mean, hopefully, you know, it goes in a shorter period of time than longer, but.
Yeah. Well, it would have been shorter, but everything's tripled in price since the COVID. I mean, that set us back a lot.
Materials,
Yes,
yeah,
because right now we literally have just under 100 grand in stone in the driveway. So I mean, that's sets back further than we thought it was going to.
how many acres?
That's 27 and I think it's 27 and just shy of the half.
Okay,
You know,
How long is your driveway?
right now it's about 700 feet.
So, no variance is needed there.
yeah. So I assume you're gonna be pretty much out of sight then?
Yes.
Well, off the road.
Yeah, so the driver goes in and then it goes around, and that's where I got cleared, so you can't, well, you can sort of see it through the trees, but. We're kind of like right in the middle of the 27 acres.
Got you. So you don't even have power or anything at this point?
No, just generators.
Gotcha, okay. All right, so the consensus is that you can proceed, and again, that the use variance doesn't apply.
Right, so the
To this.
question is, do we need a motion to find that what he's proposing is actually covered by 5.15?
I think it wouldn't hurt to.
Yeah, right,
Some sort of resolution that we want.
okay. So the first being that, again, the use variance doesn't apply to this
Well, I think it's a
circumstance.
question, what we just need is something to say that the project as Mr. Peak is proposing here.
Does not
The-
violate.
That does not violate the temporary parking of a RV or travel trailer ordinance found in
The 515.
5.15, yeah.
Okay.
So that he does not stay there more than 90
90
days.
days.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and just communication with the building inspector, the code enforcement officer via a log would be useful in kind of allowing us to
Monitor the 90 days.
monitor and continue forward.
Cause I know there's been stuff said that like, cause I have my backhoe across the driveway, cause I've had stuff stolen and people trespassing. That's at 300 feet that you can see from your road. And I've been. I guess people think when the backhoe's not there, we're back there staying, but like I put in my. Paperwork I gave you is when something breaks on backhoe, sometimes I can't get parts for it for a week or 2 weeks, so I bring it back to the 450-foot area. Where I got room to work on it, when I get it fixed, then I put it back. So when it's not across the driveway, doesn't mean that we're back there staying. All the time, sometimes we are. But the most we've ever stayed in consecutive was 3 nights. While we're working on the property.
Should move or resolve that. The occupation of the RV or travel trailer at 28 Glen Ridge Road, Rexford.
That's where I live right now.
That's his,
Oh, that's your current,
Yeah.
that's your current address.
Yeah, the address is
What's the address of the?
8612. State Highway 30, Delancey.
Yeah.
Alright, so at 86 Highway. State 8612 State Highway 30, Delancey. Tax map 43.00-1-14.312. For short periods not to total more than 90 days over the next year while the area is being prepared for the building of a house is in compliance with Waynesburg zoning law section 5.1.5. And further that the applicant will track the days and communicate the use with the town.
Yeah, keep in contact with Chris.
yeah. Right.
To monitor compliance.
That's fine. Yeah.
Second,
Vice Chairman Lack.
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
aye,
Chairman Gage,
All right,
Board Member Leoni.
all right, good to go. Just keep in touch with Chris, and again, there is a concern about people intending to live in RVs and the like. And again, we're trying to discourage that activity, but again, if you're facilitating the building of a, permanent structure, then it makes sense, for us to, give you that opportunity.
Okay.
So you're all set then.
All right, I don't get anything I gotta put in the camper window or anything.
Right.
Okay, building permit or anything stating that we have be okay to stay in it for,
I don't think you need that, no. I mean, you've been forthright letting us know what the circumstances are, that's the main thing, so it's.
I mean, I've done everything you guys asked, like permits and all that, so I'm not trying to get red flagged. That we want to build a house, so.
Yeah, no, there shouldn't be any problem. And again, at that point when, you know, you're actually having the modular set in place, or I'm assuming that Chris will probably need to provide a building permit even before that happens, but the outfit that you work with, I'm sure they dealt with these kinds of things and all have all the information that you'll need to convey to the town, so.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, well, good luck.
All right, thank you.
Oh, if you're ever, need to look at something, this will be in the minutes,
Okay.
so you can always find that. I think you can post that online, right?
Online, as far as I know.
Yeah,
On the website.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Sure.
You know, was discussing
I-
earlier in
I-
the year.
I have not seen it, so.
Okay.
Again, we're kind of working with what we have in place, so. Okay. Jacob Ayers?
Yep.
Okay. You're up, you wanna, kind of just give us an idea of what you're looking to,
I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk, you wanna talk?
Yeah.
Okay,
So we wanted to build a garage up there and we're requesting a variance to build a garage with 35-foot setbacks instead of 80.
right. And this is a C2 zoned area,
Yep,
okay. Because that's where I guess the rear setback is 80 feet.
Mhm.
as
Yeah,
opposed to 40,
right,
that we normally would see,
it's 40 on the sides, I think,
okay.
and 80 in the front and the back,
But it's only into the rear boundary that we're concerned with.
yes.
yes, yep,
Okay, so it's gonna be 35 feet from the property. The rear property line,
yeah, that's what we were requesting, yep.
oh, well, okay, but then, so. It's gonna be 35 feet from, so you would need a variance of 45 feet. Cause it's 80 feet that's required,
Mhm.
so if you're gonna set it back as close as 35 feet, then you need a variance of the 45.
Right.
Okay, yep,
This is residential?
Mhm.
yep,
No, it's C2, which is
No, but I mean,
Industrial,
light industrial.
yes, but.
but we got a variance to build it way back when. For
So this is
residential. home.
this is your residence. or
Yes.
residence?
We had to get a variance in order to build
Oh,
this in the industrial zone before we even started,
Okay.
yes.
And the garage is not for any business purpose? or-
No. No,
So the only thing on the property is your house?
yes, yep.
Okay. Okay, so the house is to the left.
Yeah, so the house is right here. Yep,
Gotcha, okay.
and we were looking to build a garage here, 35 feet away or 45 or whatever you were said was allowed. Because we mapped it out and we only had like one spot we could build up there with the 80-foot setbacks and it's where most of the water drains off the hill up there, so it wouldn't be ideal to build there, so we thought if we built over there, it would be more ideal. And that was about it.
Okay, and what's the size of the garage?
30 by 30?
Okay. So these would be just for your personal vehicles?
Yeah, I own a excavator and a skid steer as well, so we were trying to keep that undercover too.
Okay. So where your driveway connects to what road?
Duanesburg Road, Route 7.
Route 7,
Yep.
okay.
Which way's north on them now?
It's kind of,
Well, this would be facing Duanesburg Road right here. I don't know what is north of me. But Duanesburg Road's right here. It's kind of a loop driveway, it kind of snakes around and goes up like that. It's downhill.
And so
Okay.
that's a steep hill,
yes,
between your house and,
The road,
mhm,
yeah, it's.
yes.
so there's no putting a garage on the other side.
No,
No.
the front of the house, there's not enough room because it's kind
The
of the
only
end of the
spot
hill.
that we
Gotcha.
figured we could have it with the 80 foot would be around right here. And most of the water from snow and frost and everything, surface water drains right there.
And then
Naturally,
down the driveway.
that's where it goes. So we figured if we put it back there, it'd be more suitable.
My husband was afraid that if he putting drains and different drainages in that might, or surface drains, that would freeze during the winter, because this winter was a very harsh winter, you
Yeah,
never
it was
know.
bad this year.
And then he was afraid spending all that money and putting the garage up, Jacob and him are gonna do that. Spending all that money and having something heave or something happen, you know, it's hard to afford to do things these days and to, you know, that would be very difficult over there.
But what's on the other side of the property line?
Woods,
Back there,
Yes.
yeah, it's all
All
a
woods.
field. Like landlocked.
there a chance, and this is gonna sound petty, it's just the way the laws work, that it could move about 5 feet away from the line to bring it to 40 rather than 45 feet from the property line.
Yeah, I think we could manage that.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
would be
that's-
better, it'd be better than the 80 foot where we
Yes.
could.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we have a standard rule.
Yeah.
yes.
Where it's half of the original
Okay.
setback,
Okay,
and
No,
we
that
can
would
bring
be
it to
reasonable.
40 rather than 45.
yeah, that would help us out.
Okay.
In
For
fact,
sure.
my husband did say that tonight. I went up and looked at the very possible shortest and 40 feet would work as well. If there was
Yes.
an issue with the 35 foot. Moving it 80 foot would be right in the middle of the
Right.
driveway. You couldn't go
Yeah.
around it to get to the
Yeah.
house.
Right.
Yeah,
So it was like my husband spent 2 weeks up there trying to map it out, even brought us other people that were more experienced and they looked at every possible way and there was just so much water over there. He had to like put another whole trench down the side of the driveway to drain it because it was going down and pooling and we had to spend $2,500 putting more fabric in the driveway and stone and he did a ditch and funneled the water. It was like seeping right out of the ground. We've never seen it so bad this year because of all the snow and stuff. So that's why he was a little scared putting it, even entertaining it over on the other side and having it freeze. All that money and work and effort.
Yeah, so if it just came the 5 feet towards the driveway.
yep,
Yeah,
40
that
foot
would,
off the
40 would be
property.
definitely
we can work with
workable.
that. So there's a well, an existing well to the right of the proposed garage.
Yes, yep. Yeah, it's on there.
On the map, we probably need the septic, I take it down the hill.
The septic's on the,
Yeah, it's
This
kind of uphill.
Oh,
Oh,
okay, it's off the
septic, yeah.
map behind,
that's
okay.
why we can only put it right here with the 80, because we had to be away from all that. Probably would've
Okay.
been-
No, I was just looking for the septic on the map.
Yeah.
It's kind of off.
You know, they had to do a whole engineered mound with them.
Oh, the edge of
Yeah.
the septic, you know, down here.
What's the size of the lot?
This-
Acres?
It's like 6.3, something like that, a little over 6. 6.31, I think it says.
Give or take.
Oh, okay, yeah,
There.
then I see it, yeah. It might be useful if you could maybe get a map that showed other properties surrounding your lot.
Do you have any?
I have a big,
Oh, this might help, I don't know if this helps you
No,
now.
I think
I have another one, Joe.
that's Broadway.
Don't know if this helps you now, so.
This shows less, yeah, that shows less. You have to get one.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. That's it, just needs to look right. That's all your,
I can pull it up on Google now.
If you could do it, yeah, that might be useful. I
Actually,
just-
you could probably pull the tax map up on the Schenectady County site.
Yeah, but the site, I don't have the site on this computer. Like, I'll go log in, you
I think it's Schenectady County data.
don't need a percent, is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah, you can just log in as gas.
Um,
Visitor.
So this is, it's on Route 7. I'm trying to. How far beyond, say, where you would turn onto, I-88? Are you?
So you know where Dwaynesburg Auto is?
Right,
I'm the
yeah,
neighbor.
oh, okay,
So that next drive, if you're going toward Dwaynesburg, keep on going in Dwaynesburg Auto's on the right, it's the next driveway. And kind of snakes up a hill.
gotcha, okay.
Well, yeah, I always wondered what was back there.
Yeah, well,
You know.
so you must have a nice view up there, though.
Yeah, we got a bunch of trees around, it's clear up top, but yeah, it's
it's very
nice.
quiet up
Yeah,
there.
quiet.
You have issues getting up your driveway?
No, we plowed it, we had to, you know. Maintain it, but no, I didn't get stuck, I got off-road tires, so. My dad got stuck a couple times.
He just walked up the mountain. I call it a mountain, it's a hill.
Stop.
Okay. Yeah.
The driveway actually makes a switchback back to the house,
Yeah, yeah, it's got like a
because
good
the house is
bend.
closer to the. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see. Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what's there. Right.
There you can have.
Thank you, Dick.
Let me have another question. I want to do the seeker though.
Oh.
ZBA hereby determines that this request for an individual setback lot line variance is an exempt type 2 action pursuant to Title 6 NYCRR Section 671.5 C16, and that no further action pursuant to seeker is required.
Second.
Chairman Gage,
All right,
Vice Chairman Lock,
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
Aye.
Board Member Leoni.
I,
I'll make a motion to set a public hearing on May 21st at 7 PM or thereabouts for Jacob Ayers, 20th.
I think that's a 2025 map behind you. The 20th is Tuesday, the 21st is Wednesday.
It's the 20th.
I make a motion to set a public hearing on May 20th at 7 PM or thereabouts for Jacob Ayers at 5544 Dwaynesburg Road, SBO 67.00-3-1.33, seeking a rear yard variance under ordinance 12.6 sub 4 of the town of Dwaynesburg zoning ordinance.
second motion,
Okay, Board Member Boggs,
Aye.
Board Member Leoni,
I,
Chairman Gage,
aye.
Vice Chairman Lock.
Aye.
Okay, you're all set. So the next meeting, there'll be a public hearing.
Yep.
Your closer neighbors will be notified if they choose to come. It's up to them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good, thank you.
No, now, I did talk to Chris about, the Robert Brockway, and of course, he had mentioned that, I guess he felt compelled to, bring it to Chris's attention. And of course, initially, Chris said that he needed a special use permit. They went to the planning board. And then I guess it was determined that was not the appropriate. So, and then again, he came to us looking for a use variance. And my inclination, again, a use variance is kind of overkill for something like this.
Doesn't actually seem to fit in any of the permitted uses in any zone
Right.
as strictly defined in the law.
Right, but on the other hand, it doesn't really say that it's, illegal or not permitted either. And apparently he's been doing this all along. So, and I think in the conversation, we asked, how much area of his property does the storage of the materials? And I think he indicated that he could fit everything in like a 30 by 40 type structure of barns. And that, again, it just kind of was a meeting point for the people that he works with.
Yeah.
And then they take what materials they need and then go off to do their
Right.
their installations. So my inclination is that we need not even address this at this point. And then if anything, maybe make a recommendation of the town that they define, what constitutes, storage. Or-
Right, well, I think we reached the conclusion that we need to make a recommendation to the town because he was the second one in 2 months. With a very similar request.
Well, the difference was, and
Well, the difference was he already owned the property, and there was a
Exactly.
sale of property pending the outcome of our decision on the other, and if the decision was going to be, well, you don't need it.
well.
Then that sale would have gone through.
Yeah, but to me, that was a different circumstance, because if they were looking to purchase property for the sake of providing the storage, there are other, in fact, I even brought the maps of the C2 designated areas.
Well, they were planning to build a storage yard there with fencing and.
Right, they were gonna,
Yeah.
expand, the storage significantly at a later time. But it was also kind of in the middle of an R2 area. And again, if we were to, allow that use, I think it wouldn't necessarily be in keeping with, the character of the neighborhood and the like. Especially if, again, they didn't own the property, there are C2 areas that could be potentially purchased, and then that wouldn't be a concern. That's for the other outfit. And of course, they decided that I guess it wasn't worth their
Yeah.
while to do so. But I'm again thinking in this other circumstance that I think, again, use variance is overkill. Because, and especially if whether he can meet that or not, I mean, maybe he could, but I wouldn't want to stretch the boundaries of a use variance approval, for something like this. And it just,
We're talking about a home business.
well, that's the other thing, and the only reason that was not as applicable is because he doesn't actually live on that particular parcel.
We had discussions about how close his house was to the parcel.
Yeah, right,
And whether we could expand, I think it was an adjacent lot that we could kind of consider. One.
His parents own the surrounding.
right, and that's the
Yes,
other
yeah.
part of it too. But again, my inclination is to think that whether we want to even stretch the definition of a home occupation, because again, we set that precedent,
Right.
then we have to kind of consider that for other ones.
Well. I think until we get more guidance on where and how this sort of thing is allowed, we're gonna need to figure something out.
Right. But at this point, I think that, again, I would dismiss the use variance application and leave it be. And again, he
But
can,
well, if we do that, are we instructing the applicant or Chris that this is an allowable use, and if so, under what authority?
well, we're not, I don't even know if I want to make that declaration either, because again, then we would be kind of wedded to,
Well, I see that, but hasn't Chris told them that it's not enough?
well, that's the thing. This guy came in on his own.
Okay,
So it's not like Chris made a point of, or just happened to
Yeah.
come upon this and say, well, this is not allowable. My inclination would be to,
Okay, so why don't we say that we can't, that we are not going to resolve this matter at present, awaiting further guidance from the planning board.
well, it wouldn't be, it would
no,
be
it would
the
have to
town
be the
board.
town board. They would have to-
Again, we would need, right. recommendations regarding, I think
Which sort of puts it in hiatus and.
yeah, and then,
Well, or do we find that, well, nothing actually.
he's not doing anything
Um,
that's
Do
special.
we need to say that nothing that we can see is prohibiting this use until we get more
Right,
guidance, rather than the other way around, which is we need more guidance before we can permit it.
right, and again, I don't even wanna tread those waters either, because.
Right, so the treading would be, we don't see anything that prohibits it while we wait further instruction.
Right, and again, we could make recommendations, and again, my understanding is that the village of Delanson is dealing with this now. In fact, what do they call it, a laydown yard?
Right.
So maybe we can make recommendations
The
that
town look at what the village has done and perhaps adopt it. in
and
some
decide whether it's appropriate or not. And I think, again, he's really using a rather small amount of property for this. Obviously, if he were to, clear, what was the size of the lot? Was it 6 acres or no, I think it was even bigger than that. But it was a smaller portion, should look at my notes, of,
Well, it's clear that it's distinguishable in scale from the previous applicant.
Yes, he has
Yeah.
6 acres.
What
He has
he's doing is a
okay.
much smaller deal than what they want us to do.
yes.
And using a much smaller percentage of the thing. He has 6 acres and I think he was talking about using. 1,000 square feet, give or take.
Exactly, I mean, that's kind of minuscule. I mean, since, at this point, despite our recommendations to the town about, the accessory buildings, I mean, I know there's other properties being included that has accessory building, maybe not approaching, or maybe they, there's no prohibition. If I wanted to have 10, 140 square feet, which would be comparable to almost what this guy's doing, so. Like I say, I think that the use variance is inappropriate for this type of.
Right, and there's no given,
Right.
there's no defined use that would fit it anyway.
Right. So I feel comfortable dismissing the use variance aspect of it. And again, similar to, well, again, even with the other, storage and use variance requests, Chris was thinking that they would have to go to the planning board, which they did, looking for a special use, and then were instructed that, well,
Yeah.
and for them, it might make sense. For this, I think it's way over. So. So,
Well, since he's not here, we don't really need to do anything right now.
right, I mean, but I would, just for the record, want to dismiss the application based on, because the use variance is not appropriate for these circumstances.
Do you wanna make a motion to that?
Yeah, okay. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna make a motion regarding the use variance application of Robert Brockway, SBL 34 -1-29 .14 located at 272 North Road, seeking a use variance for storage of materials, is dismissed based on that we don't think the use variance would apply to this circumstance. And that we feel a more appropriate definition of the storage of materials on R2 designated zoning properties would be appropriate, more appropriate, and we can make a recommendation to the town board as we had done with the accessory buildings. For that particular guidance, if all that makes sense.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay,
Chairman Gage, Board Member Leoni,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lennox, Board Member Bob.
and some, that may need to be paraphrased, but we can do that. But that's kind of the gist, and
I'll
I'm not
second
very
that.
What,
good about doing
do
that.
we need to put in the minutes or move that we find the activity in which he's engaging is currently not prohibited by current zoning?
I would go with that there's inadequate guidance regarding that.
That's better.
Yeah, and again, because I don't wanna get locked into where we, you know, made a statement that we might end up, you know, finding that, we would be remiss if we were wedded to it.
Let's say inadequate guidance given the circumstances,
Okay.
because ultimately you have interpretive power.
Yeah, but we don't really have much to interpret either.
Right.
So,
No, I'm just trying to put myself in his place, reading this, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do now.
well,
Yeah,
actually, there's nothing, and again, and talking to Chris about this too. There was not anything that he felt, you know, would require Chris to say, you gotta halt this activity.
Okay, well, but as long as somebody is communicates that back to Mr. Brockway.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
right, I'll talk to Chris,
Okay, but like I said, I'm just afraid if I were in Mr. Brockway's place and what I read was, oh, they dismissed my thing.
yeah. But the only, and again, I would say is that provided, you know, what he's doing now is kind of limited to
Right.
the activity that he described to us. I mean, and again, I asking Chris, you know, how did this all come about? And that's what he'd said, that he, Mr. Brockway had heard that what he was doing could be a problem, so he, you know, did come on his own and went to Chris. And again, I'm, even Chris wasn't sure what to do about it, which is kind of why he ended up getting sent to the
Right.
planning board. Now that it comes back to us, kind of thing. But like I say, I think we still don't have adequate guidance, and I don't want to say, no, you can't do this, or you can. You just leave it be. If it does get to a point where he's starting to expand the operation, you know, if he's putting up neon signs or something silly like that, well, that would be in conflict with the character of the neighborhood, then that could be an issue. But apparently he's been doing this all along and nobody has
Right.
thought or, you know, been concerned enough to say, well, you can't do that.
Of course, we don't even down and do it on sign routine.
Yeah, well, but just because that would, you know, signify that
Yeah.
then he's
yeah.
doing a business operation,
Right.
but, you know, again, I'm sure there's other, you know, other R2 properties that have things that, you know, if we were to go into them and decide, well, you know,
People are storing stuff.
well,
Yeah.
and so do I. I mean, you know, maybe not to the degree that this, but even this seems like small potatoes in comparison to the other application where they were intending to store, you know,
Heavy equipment.
heavy equipment and
Have it all
significant,
locked in a
Yeah.
fenced in compound and all that.
right, so. All right, so we're okay with all of that?
Yeah.
All right, all right.
Other than that, you don't need to do anything with the town. I mean, there was no hearing, or there was on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what the date. Well, that was all incumbent upon them. They own two lots and they were gonna create one large lot. Right, so that's a planning board thing, and then if they do that or don't do that, and they may not even need a variance, right? If they had to be 200 feet,
Right,
right?
yeah, but then
The chicken
we
farm
were
thing?
changing
Yeah.
the rules on, the law was changing on chicken farms.
Well, they already
Or-
did that.
Right,
So, but then again, that's beyond our scope of authority, so.
okay, so that's just your, you're not sure.
I think it's just still in your book.
Oh, okay, that's.
It might be in mine
It's not on
too,
the
but-
agenda, it's just in the.
Right, no.
Okay,
The law, I was told to put them in everyone's book setting. Or you're talking about the chicken farm guy.
the
Yeah.
chicken farm guy.
Yeah, cause he hasn't withdrawn, so I don't, it's kind of in limbo, I don't really know what to do with it.
Well, I think we tabled it.
Yeah,
Well, maybe
Right.
that's why
Right.
it's here. It's-
Yeah, and that's
That's why
fine.
it's still kind of there.
Things for, at some point, do we need to open it and push it forward? I know we've done that on occasion,
Well,
where things have been tabled for too long.
but again, if he accomplishes what he was
Right,
gonna do with the planning board, then again, he's not gonna need that.
right, no, it's a question
Yeah.
of true semantics and how long we can keep a table, waiting for that to happen.
Well, I don't know, I guess I'd wait to see if he's
Okay.
still
Yeah.
in communication with the planning board and trying to accomplish that aspect of it. So you're getting the materials via your email, right? Okay. Or again, you can always go to the town website if you.
But they're emails.
Yeah, okay, as long as everybody's getting it, because I mean, I do it because I need to make sure that we're prepared. And like I say, I reached out to Chris to find out what was going on that and the gentleman with the RV thing, so.
On the RV, I just wasn't sure if they had ever acted upon the proposed change in the RV law.
Well, Chris didn't indicate
Oh,
that, so
right,
when I
so,
talked to him, and
yeah.
again, that was the agreement that we felt that, you know.
Yeah.
Like I say, I think Chris's concern
No,
was that.
what we've come up with is reasonable in the law as
Yes.
it's currently written, but I know they
Yes.
were looking into changing the RV law.
Right, but
You know what change they were planning to make?
Yeah, that 90 days was gonna be like one.
well,
Or they were kind of trying to ban the idea that people can stay in shallow
Yeah.
trailers on their property.
yes,
Like
Or
anywhere in the. Well, that, I mean, people buy lots for camps and stuff. Or some, to get away for the summer.
well, yes, but then again, that's like a short period duration, I think. The concern is that
Yeah.
people might want,
But the way
Do
they
that.
had written the original proposal would have prevented, I think. The comment I wrote back to him is my in-laws will come up in their trailer and stay in the driveway for the weekend. And that would have been banned under the law as they proposed it.
which is kind of silly,
But that was then, and I actually commented back with that.
yeah,
Just really what you would, I think it was a response to. Across the street from me, they opened that flower. Garden, they sell
oh,
flowers and so.
Yeah.
And last summer, they had a camper on there in which I think they were living. And I think this is aimed at. that sort of thing.
Somebody disliked that circumstance.
I'm guessing, yeah, that, well, maybe not them specifically, but them amongst others doing this sort of thing.
But in general, and again, Chris has expressed concerns about people living in shipping containers, which is, you know.
Which is banned.
Well-
The shipping we looked at the whole shipping container rule and it had to be some sort of subsidiary use, which in their case, they were using it as a barn.
Right, which and again, I know.
Yeah.
I have a neighbor that has one and they store
Yeah.
materials in it. I mean, I guess they could be secure in that way and be handy, but his concern is that if people are gonna be living in something,
Right.
then, you know, they have to meet building code, health department and other aspects of, you know.
Well, I think with the travel trailers. They're trying to put it under the same ban as mobile homes. Or they're trying to look at them the same way they look at mobile. That, again, that's my sense of what the town board would do. I just never heard what the final result of it was. It may have just been tabled. Definitely at the town board.
Right, let's see, so the minutes here.
On the second page, it says. Board member Leone made a motion to close the table, the use variance of. Number 2324, Robert Rockaway. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, it's either you close it or you table it. You can't have both.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Right, so the motion must have been to table the use variance.
Yeah.
We tabled it last month and we voted on it this month. Or we voted to dismiss it this month.
Well, no, last month it was new business. So if anything,
Right.
we would have tabled.
Yeah, we tabled it and then we just discussed it and.
Right.
To dismiss it.
Well, you made the motion,
Motion to
Nelson.
table the use variance application.
Right.
Because at that, we discussed it, we felt we didn't have enough information, so we didn't even set a public hearing.
Right.
So you should remove the two words too close.
Yes.
Yes, just remove the words to close. Is the motion? Well, no.
close,
Leave two, eliminate close the.
Yeah,
Motion to table the use variance.
of Robert, yeah.
Or the use variance application.
I just copy and paste a lot of those, so I probably just missed.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
was.
No, that's fine.
Well. I think there was an expectation that the Verizon folks were gonna be at the last meeting.
I think we
And we were,
mentioned that they hadn't yet run their tests, or they didn't have the results back from their tests, so there was no.
well, they would have had them by the last meeting. I think they were postponed. But again, that the whole postponing of the balloon test, again, they need to get from that negative declaration from the planning board, so. Anyway, because, and what happened, there was a,
Right, I mean, they have that, and that's, we
Yeah.
just scheduled the hearing for next month.
right, and there was some correspondence, in fact, I had it, regarding the fact that, they were gonna just request that we set the public hearing so that if they got the approval, the negative declaration, then at the next meeting, we can go ahead and do our
Right.
part of it. And then,
Right, we did that.
yeah,
Right.
and that's how that came about.
Yeah. But I think they were discussed last month, only in that there was nothing new to discuss, and.
Yes, yeah, in
I
fact,
think they were still in abatement, or tabled, or whatever they're.
yeah, I guess, the gentleman Hyde had, reached out to, Teresa and asked about, the possibility of us, again, being able to set the public hearing tonight as we did.
Right.
And then it would go from there. All right,
We need to add anything to the minutes then?
Right, yeah, well, I know you were mentioning there's a connection with
oh,
something about the minutes from last month.
uh,
Do they need to be mentioned in the minutes?
I don't know, was in the agenda, I thought in last month's agenda, they were on it,
They were on it, but they didn't show.
but they, right.
So do we need to mention in the minutes, no action was taken on the application of. Of Structure 4 Companies LLC?
No, no, they were.
Oh, no, sorry, that wasn't.
Yeah, that
That's
was
Verizon.
addressed, right.
Sorry, it is.
Yeah, Verizon, there was an expectation that Verizon would be at the meeting. But they subsequently showed, for the April meeting.
Right, like I said, it's only a question of do they need to appear in the March minute with the notation, no action was taken.
Right, and that, yeah,
I don't think that we consistently mentioned in the minutes when somebody didn't show up.
well, no, but it's good to make the note of it. I mean, you're right, I don't know. I just, don't worry about it. Again, they showed up today when it was. the
When there was
more
something to
yes.
say.
Well, again, they reached out and asked
Right.
that they could be at this meeting and have us set the public hearing.
Yeah, I think
so-
they were on the agenda last month, but for the same reason that. That the egg farm continues to appear in.
No, I asked them if they were coming last month and they said they were, so that's why I put them on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
And then they didn't come, so.
Okay.
Well, and again, maybe they decided that it was a moot point at that, but eventually, again, they asked that,
There was nothing, there was no action for us to take for them, and so they didn't
right,
show up and ask us to take it.
The person I talked to was also not Hyde, so he might have just unanimously decided there was no action, so not to come, which is fine.
Yeah.
See what happens when you talk to Jekyll instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny.
All right. And again, as far as the use variance for, you know, the criteria is a little
Right.
different and it should be fairly easy to deal with.
I make a
Well,
motion
because it's
that,
not a use variance as such, it's a special application under the telecommunications law,
Right.
which has its own rules.
Yeah, and I think even Teresa thought that it really is not necessary. But again.
Yeah,
that's-
no, like I said, I think from Verizon's point of view, it needs a finding that they're satisfying the telecommunications law.
Right, but I think she was even questioning whether it's necessary, but it's the fact that it's there,
Right.
then they need to address, then be done with it. So other than that, the minutes are good to go, with the one correction made.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written, except that the words closed off be removed from the Chairman Gage, Board Member Leone make a motion. Sentence that we discussed earlier and the word application be added after variance in the same sentence.
Second the motion.
Board Member Boggs,
Aye?
Board Member Leone,
I,
Chairman Gage,
Aye.
or Vice Chairman Locke.
Right.
Did we have any Zoom participants?
No one.